This is Mr. E 2099, and today I want to talk about the situation going on with Ethan Van Sciver and some freelance journalists that are trying to essentially write a hit piece about him. The main guy we're going to be talking about is Kyron Shiach. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, and quite frankly, I don't care. He's the assistant editor at Comics Alliance and responsible for recurring features such as This Magazine Kills Fascists and Rogues Gallery. He's also the co-host of the podcast Journey into Mystery and Animal Crackers, as well as a contributor to various independent zines, and apparently John Cena is his patronus. So, that alone should give you an indication of the type of individual we're dealing with. But let's continue on to see what he actually has to say about the quote-unquote article he's writing about Ethan Van Sciver. I've reached out to DC to ask 5 questions. 1. Is there a harassment policy? 2. Were there any changes in the wake of Eddie Berganza? Which, that guy deserved to be fired for what he did, but that's really nothing to do with Ethan. 3. Is online harassment worthy of investigation? 4. Is DC aware of harassment campaigns led by EVS? And that's the first point of contention. Ethan Van Sciver does not lead harassment campaigns. He has said on multiple occasions that you should not contact people and leave them harmful messages. Ethan Van Sciver is against that. If you have a problem with Ethan Van Sciver will deal with it himself. He does not want people speaking on his behalf and talking to people as if they have his authority. Ethan wants to talk to people himself and maybe try to talk things out, settle matters. But he definitely does not lead harassment campaigns. That is the opposite of what he wants. And if these people had actually talked to Ethan Van Sciver, they would know that. 5. Are measures being taken to address it? There's nothing to address because Ethan Van Sciver is not leading a harassment campaign. He also posts, if you've been harassed by Ethan Van Sciver, Richard C. Meyer, or their army of trolls, what army of trolls? Are you talking about Comicsgate? Because Comicsgate is not an army of trolls. It's a bunch of comic book fans and consumers killing people what we don't want in comic books, what we aren't willing to pay money for. And since Marvel Comics and DC Comics are both capitalist endeavors, what people are willing to pay money for are what they should be focusing on. And would you like to talk about it? You can get in touch with either myself or Astra Alban in confidence to tell your story. Now, here's how you know this is biased. I have looked, and I cannot see a single call about people willing to defend Van Sciver or about good conversations that they've had with them. Ethan Van Sciver has interviewed people on his channel, and I've seen it, and it's been very cordial. But no, they don't talk about that here. All they want is mud that they can throw out the good name of Van Sciver. They want a hit piece. They want to take this guy down. And as we go on, it's going to become more evident. I'm wondering if we can't get DC to address it directly. If a grassroots movement might help. Maybe a hashtag. I'm leading towards EVS out. I'm open to suggestions. See, that right here. They are trying to get Ethan Van Sciver fired from his job. Why? Because Ethan Van Sciver is a conservative. He's been open about the fact that he voted for Donald Trump. And he does not believe in social justice. He doesn't have a problem with people who are gay, bisexual, trans, whatever. But he wants to focus on making good stories and drawing good characters. But he isn't really interested in infecting, his personal beliefs into a character. He actually got very upset when people try to use classic characters for their own ends. He feels that they should be the caretakers of these beloved characters whose creators have since passed. He's not going to draw or write a character like Green Arrow as a conservative just because he is. Because the character of Green Arrow is not a conservative. He is a hardcore liberal. Now, Hal Jordan is more of a conservative, but that's who the character is. That's who the character's always been. And Ethan Van Sciver is more about maintaining that character and putting that character in good stories than about changing the character to suit his own political ends. But, guys like this, they don't care about that. There have been, I forget who posted it, but comic book pros have been saying that if you voted for Trump, we will find you and we will push you out of the industry. And I think that's a real shame because for people who are supposed to be inclusive, they really don't seem to have that much of a desire to include anyone that does not agree with them. And then you lose a lot of good people that way. Like, I'm sure you're all aware of the John Mallon situation. The artist of Cable, who is an open conservative, and who is people are trying to push out of the industry for, supposedly putting an alt-right message in one of his books, but it's not really an alt-right message, it's a reference to a movie. Like, you can like a movie that the alt-right also likes without being a member of the alt-right. If the alt-right liked oxygen, would everybody who breathes be a member of the alt-right? Moving on. As it stands, I won't be reporting on it myself because, unfortunately, I'm part of the story. However, my friend Astra Alban is looking into covering it for The Atlantic and is someone I will trust and vouch for. Yeah, that doesn't give me much confidence in the guy, unfortunately. But, as for covering it for The Atlantic, that's also something that we should all be wary of, as we shall see. There will be people who've already decided I'm biased. Because you are. You're asking people to tell you one side of the story without asking anybody else to tell you the other. Nobody has talked to me because you blocked most of us. I am blocked by this guy. I didn't even know who he was. But I want to reiterate my comment to reporting this out fairly. No, you don't. You can look at my previous work and see that's something I place a high value on. Oh, I could already see from how you've conducted this investigation so far, well, from what I've been able to see of how you've conducted this investigation so far, that you're only looking to get people who have a grudge against Van Sciver and not people who have talked with him personally at any length and had civil discussions with him. Because you advertise on social media for people who have a grudge against him, but no one who would be willing to talk about what a great guy he is. Because Ethan Van Sciver is a great guy. He's a kind guy. He's a guy that really loves his work and loves the fans that appreciate all the effort that he puts into his art. Hey folks, since I wasn't clear, I'd like to emphasize something. I'm a freelancer, and The Atlantic has yet to formally greenlight a piece. Yeah, because they actually made a comment about it because you kept telling them that you were writing it for them, and the way you worded it seems like you were employee of The Atlantic, and you're not. You're a freelancer, and you're dragging their name into this when they weren't even aware of it and have nothing to do about it. Don't drag people into things that they have nothing to do with. That's bullshit. They even had to tell Ethan Van Sciver that these people are not employees of The Atlantic and are not formally associated with them. At Ethan Van Sciver, for your awareness, the writer in question is not an employee of The Atlantic, nor is he on assignment for The Atlantic. Thank you. Yeah, this guy was writing a piece in hopes of having it published in their magazine or paper or whatever. yet he's talking like it's already been greenlit and he has their approval. Like, this really is low of them to not just, you know, try and get people against Ethan Van Sciver, but for also to drag in a periodical that has nothing to do with their vendetta against Van Sciver. You know, it's really upsetting when I see quote unquote journalists just trying to slant the news. You know, because I was raised by a journalist. I grew up around journalists. I spent a lot of time growing up in the bullpen of a newspaper. And I have a lot of respect for journalists. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing in the modern day would just, it's not journalism. It's, I don't know what it is, but it's just not journalism. It's people purposely trying to skew public opinion to what they believe to be the correct side and not giving a fair, unbiased opinion about what's going on and not recusing themselves from an article when they have a personal involvement, because that impairs your ability to be impartial about a subject. And it's just a shame that this is what our society is coming to, when the people who are supposed to be able to trust to give us the fair, unbiased account of what's happening just try to use that platform for their own ends. It's saddening, it really is. Alright, everybody, this has been Mr. E2099. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all later.